Welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig, right here in Starshop Studio in Times Square. As you can see, if you've been following me this week, it's Empowerment Week. We have had a lot of inspiring guests, and today is no different. But before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors at Immunocologie that has a special clay-based moisturizer that is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Please share this show and you will have an opportunity to get a free sample that you can use yourself. Okay, today we have a glamorous woman who is beautiful on the inside and out and has a lot of wisdom as well. Marshawn Evan Daniels. She's a lot of things, okay? She is now a reinvention strategist life coach, but she also was on The Apprentice. She also was a runner-up for Miss America. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. And also went to Georgetown Law, which is gorgeous. I love Georgetown. But now really is empowering women, and that is her focus. And we can see that by her new book, Believe Bigger. Let me just tell you, this is like therapy in a book. It really is.
Thank you.
Because you open up the pages and there are inspiring quotes throughout that are from you, right? Inspiring quotes that you have written throughout that is based on your life story with a happy ending, which we will definitely get to. And also for the first time, I think during this book tour, we'll even get a sneak peek at her new fabulous husband, because that's the way I roll. And I think everyone's going to want to know when he has good taste in jewelry too. Okay. Marshawn, welcome to New York City.
Thank you for having me.
So fabulous having you. I'm all about smart women who empower other women, especially when they're wise, like you
Thank you so much. But that's what really makes a smart woman, is a woman who empowers other women.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. And I've always been a believer in women empowering other women, not only as a therapist, but I went to an all-women's college.
Okay.
It was in vogue back in the day, way back in the day. And what I saw as a result of going to an all-women college is that we supported one another.
Oh, that's good.
We were kind of an island to ourselves, and we realized that we were there for each other, and it really helped me in life, I think, because we women need other women.
Absolutely. I don't think we fully understand that. One of the things I write about in Believe Bigger is how a woman cannot fulfill her purpose and her calling without the presence of other women in her life. And we think that it's optional. We think that, I was one of those girls growing up who felt like, I just get along with the guys and I don't really get along well with women. And what I found out that sometimes our wounds, our hurts are actually the sign of what our calling and our destiny is. And so sometimes purpose is hidden in a place of pain, because sometimes we can be very brutal to each other.
Women can be complicated, and I'll tell you why.
That's a good way of putting it.
And I understand, because I always really like my guy friends too, because women relate on a very intimate level.
And it takes a lot of trust.
It takes trust, and also you can get hurt. If you're relating on an intimate level, it feels personal. But that's why our relationships are so powerful, because we experience the world in a similar way.
That's a good point. I like that.
And if we can show up for one another, it's tremendously healing. Because, women as women, we do it all. Part of what you talk about, sometimes the purpose is in the heartache, and you're very open about talking about how you were in this place, you thought you found your soulmate.
Yes.
You had just given up, your business as an attorney?
Yeah. So I, by trade.
After all of that work at Georgetown Law?
Well, I went to Georgetown for law school. I went and started at a big law firm.
Yeah.
And I felt what I felt was the purpose tug for the first time, actually, while I was in my law firm. I felt like it was time for me to leave and transition, but I had just gotten there. I'd only been there for about a year. And I decided to go start a sports agency. And I was very successful very early on. I signed the highest paid defensive end in the NFL as my first client.
You go, girl.
He just signed a $62 million 7-year deal. So I had this successful, super sexy sports agency managing NFL and NBA players. I'm in my late 20s. And I am doing well financially. I have this very high-profile public engagement, and was getting ready to be a bonus mom to his 3 children.
Wow.
And so life was it seemed perfect.
Yeah.
And I also had a book out at the time. You mentioned I was on The Apprentice.
Yes.
I wrote a book called Skirts in the Boardroom.
How did you get on that show? Was it a result of Miss America?
No, so the current president used to own Miss USA, not Miss America.
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Miss America was the original, y'all.
That's right.
The originals.
That's right.
So all of these pieces were in place. I was doing commentary for CNN, for Fox Business Channel, and for ESPN like regularly. Mm-hmm. And you could not pinch me to tell me it could get any better. Mm-hmm. And then I find out 6 days before the wedding. Now keep in mind, 6 days before the wedding means venue is taken care of.
That's right.
Food, dresses, plural, because Miss America girl is going to have more than one dress. She has to have a wardrobe change, right?
Yeah.
Bridesmaids, everyone's coming in from around the country, and people were coming in from around the world. They have their tickets booked. Mm-hmm. A lot of those were non-refundable. Hotel is taken care of. Flowers are extremely expensive.
Yes.
But thousands of dollars worth of flowers paid for. And Monday morning, we were supposed to get married on a Saturday. At 6 days before, he's on a plane on his way to Atlanta for wedding week. And I discovered that he was cheating on me while he was on the plane.
Does that not matter?
It does matter. So I kind of write about some of the details in the book, but a lot of us as women have gotten that call or that message from another woman. And that's why when you said, and we were talking about at the outset, that a woman cannot fulfill her destiny, her calling, and her purpose without other women. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when you say complicated, I say sometimes we are just brutal, right?
Yeah.
We can be brutal, and we can be unintentionally intentional. We're doing something, but we don't know why we're doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So getting that message, first I didn't believe it. And I talk about in the book about going through disillusionment and trying to understand and process. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. Right. And I think sometimes because we as women, we wear these masks, we know how to suit up, we know how to put on the face that needs to happen, and we know how to survive. Yeah. And I think I went into a self-protective survival mode where I didn't lose my cool, and I think that freaked him out. But there was something where I could see with that thing that we have called intuition. Before I even asked him if it was true, I looked at him. He was at baggage claim, and I looked at him where he couldn't see me. And as I looked at him, I knew it was true before he said a word, because I looked at him as his countenance. I looked at his demeanor. I looked at his entire essence, and he didn't have to say a word. I wrote in the book, I said, I just knew. I just knew. And so that was devastating, emotionally. From a trust standpoint, one of the worst things I think that people get cheated on every day. And sometimes we look at it as a very cavalier thing. And some of us get used to it. What I learned is that he came from a family where that was common. Right. So it was normal behavior. That wasn't normal behavior up in this area. This atmosphere, we don't do that. So what I learned, though, is that one of the most devastating things that happens is when you start puncturing a woman's intuition and her trust. She forgets and loses who she is. I didn't understand if the sky was really blue anymore because I didn't see this coming. Yeah. So then we start to doubt everything. And if we're not careful, that doubt can lead into the opposite direction of where our life is supposed to go. And so what I discovered is that if we can embrace disruption, if we can go through it as opposed to around it and suit up and pretend it didn't happen or blame, if we can go through it, that as we embrace disruption, on the other side is a higher destiny. And not just a bigger in terms of superficial, but truly higher. Because I believe that Ish comes into your life to unleash a version of you that you didn't even know existed. And so that's what happened to me. Now, it wasn't easy, but it was still worth it.
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm like
they want to be a part of our conversation.
Yeah, exactly. People are calling in. I guess they want to be a part of it. You must have had tremendous self-esteem to end the wedding and say this behavior is not good enough, because I know that there are a lot of people who might have made another choice, who might have said, I can handle this, maybe I can change the person, but you really stood in your own power. And something you talk about in the book, and because a lot of people could look at you and say, you know, she's gorgeous, she's smart, of course she has other opportunities, another destiny. But you were very honest that it was a process
It's a
for
process.
you, that
Yeah.
you went into therapy.
Yes.
You talked it through.
Yes.
You sought guidance.
I think that you have to have a bigger vision than what you've been through. So to believe bigger means to believe beyond what you're experiencing and to believe beyond what you've experienced.
So at that moment, or while you were healing, did you have this vision of the type of relationship you felt was more in tune with what you deserved?
I wasn't there yet. I was shattered.
Like,
we're snotty, we're crying, we're in the bed, we're facing the ceiling. I was dealing with depression. It wasn't all that profound and deep just yet.
Because it was kind of high profile.
It was high
you're
profile.
Ending a wedding.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people to answer to. There are a lot of gifts to give back.
There's a lot of bills that have to be paid.
Lost, right? And bills to get paid.
Bills to get paid. And that was stressful because I had closed my business down to get married. So he had bought me this nice luxury vehicle, which was challenging for me to allow that to happen as an independent woman. And I felt like
I could help you with that.
Well, so the thing about trust and learning to drop your guard is that you're talking, vulnerability. You have to put yourself in position for your heart to fall, for it to be break. The hardest thing is when you fall, it's challenging when the one who's supposed to catch you is the one who drops you. Yeah. That's the hard part. You asked about self-esteem. And one of the things I write about is how I had a very strong addiction to success, and that every woman is an addict. We just don't know what kind of addiction we have. And I talk about these different types of addictions, these 5 success mountains. Mine was career, because I wasn't groomed as the girl who had a lot of boyfriends growing up or boys who were interested. I went to a predominantly white school as a Black girl in the early 80s. And for me, it felt like integration for the first time. Yeah. My teachers hadn't had Black kids in their class before, and the boys weren't having crushes on me. I didn't have sleepovers. So
they didn't tell you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Flips here.
Yeah.
But so my point is, you can look at someone and see them as very successful, but I write very clearly how through self-discovery, I had to not blame him. I had to see, how did I bring him into my life? How did I, with all these accolades, attract somebody that was broken? And I had to realize there were broken parts in me that were very magnetically drawn to broken parts in him.
And really that is the key to successful living as well.
Yes.
Because we certainly can walk around in life and very legitimately feel victimized, right?
Yeah,
life is challenging. There are a lot of things that don't work out our way. But the moment that you can say, I'm going to take responsibility and see what part, if I had any part at all, so that I can redirect my life and be more in a position, be more proactive.
But you always have a part, because I one of the things I teach in my women's seminars and conferences now is...
And you call it God essence, is that right?
Godfidence.
Godfidence. Okay,
Godfidence.
I gave you a new word. Okay, Godfidence. I love that.
One of the things that I teach is that everything in your life you invited. Everything in your life you allowed.
That's spiritual.
Oh yeah, I believe in. I believe that what helped me to not take out knives and forks when I went to the airport to meet him was completely the grace of God. I had a spiritual encounter the day before this all happened, and I thought, I was on my couch. I'm in my townhouse. And I've been someone who's believed in God my entire life since I was a little girl. I don't know any other way. But I also believe in living a full life with no restrictions, not a religious life, but a expansive life that represents how much you really believe and how big God is, and he shows up through you. And so, but that night, right before, I was on the phone with my fiance, and I felt this presence that I can't even describe. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah. And I said, I've got to go. I don't even know if I said bye, but I hung up the phone, and I felt like I had this, the best I can describe it is like a tribal worship type of thing. It was just me. My TV was on, there was no volume, and then I kind of, when it was over, I kind of opened my eyes. I was like, where am I and what just happened? And it wasn't something that I initiated. It wasn't. But what I felt, it was like this covering of grace that was protecting my mind and my heart. And I often ask, why did I get to find out before my wedding? Because I found out, I've just met so many women who found out.
I love how you said that. Why did you get to find out?
Why did I get to find out?
Instead, why did I have to find out again.
Oh, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was a
total blessing.
It was a gift wrapped in thorns, but it was
Yeah.
still a gift. And sometimes they're hard to receive.
Sometimes our gifts are wrapped in thorns.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I was like, why was I spared? I've had friends, I've walked through infidelity with them before. Why was I spared? Why was it so public? Why was it so dramatic? Why did it have these ripple effects with my family? My family went somewhat into some depression around it.
Yeah.
And why were my friends like, I'm like, why was this so big?
Yeah.
And what I recognized, the day after the wedding was supposed to happen, I'm leaning up against the car that he bought, this luxury vehicle that now I'm not sure how I'm going to pay for. And I see all of these people who've come in town for the wedding because they had tickets that couldn't be canceled, plane tickets. And I see on the busiest street in Atlanta this moment where I'm like, God, why did this happen to me? And it wasn't a woe is me thing. This was I don't care how many people are around right now. I don't care how many cars. I don't care what's happening. On the busiest street in Atlanta, I need to hear your voice right this second. And he said, you're going to be able to change the lives of women like never before. Now, I didn't like women. I didn't want to work with women. I was comfortable working with pro athletes. I had 2 brothers, 8 male cousins, and I was comfortable in the male arena. I'm definitely super A type. And that helped, now that I see what I do now in helping women to completely change their lives. When he said you will be able to change the lives of women like never before, that must have meant I wasn't able to before. So my heart, sometimes your heart has to be softened and tenderized to have compassion and grace and to be able to elegantly receive women, not with our mask, but with our essence, with our true self. And so I had to get to a rock bottom place. One of the things I also say and believe bigger is that when God breaks what you've built, he's building something better and bigger. But big, B-I-G, stands for built in God. And that isn't about high buildings and fancy things. And it is something that will last beyond yourself.
You talk a bit about, and I imagine this is one of the reasons why you wrote this book, that you prayed for a bigger vision of yourself. And one of the things that I think can happen, especially for women, because we can get to this place of acceptance, right? We're caregivers. We think about everybody else sometimes and put ourselves last. And we're so busy that it's hard to think of a bigger vision. Or maybe there's some fear associated with that because what if we get disappointed?
Exactly.
What if we can't get there? What do you say to women? And I know really the book beautifully, if you go through the book, and it really is like therapy in a book, and that's the beautiful thing.
So I have to quote a therapist saying it's like therapy.
It's like therapy in a book.
That is so sweet.
And you know what? I understand how important that is because my patients come to me, they come for 45 minutes. Then they have to go home and have to be responsible in terms of feeding their brain and feeding their mind with healthy ideas that inspire, that they can read over and over and over again. So this is definitely in that category. So I think I'm going to have a new list. Therapist choice.
I like that.
And then I'm going to put all the books that qualify, and you're going to be my first book that qualifies in the therapist choice.
I love it. But you know, while I was going through, and I went initially sometimes 2 days a week. Yeah. And the thing that I called some spiritual advisors. I wanted to know how I ended up here because I think in order to put yourself in a submissive, surrendered state to be like, what just happened? Who am I? Not why this happened, but who am I why is this happening because of a larger thing for me? I had to realize for myself and believe that my life was not my own. And I think part of the reason why it's hard to get a bigger vision is because we're not taught selfless living, not martyrdom, where we just do everything for everyone.
But service.
Service-based, like we're here for a purpose. And we're taught, women, one of the things I say in chapter 3 on stinking, shrinking thinking is that when a woman is not taught purpose, she settles and shrinks, and she settles for protocol and people pleasing and approval and acceptance as opposed to purpose. And as little girls, we're taught Prince Charming. We're taught to be accepted and to do what is acceptable, not to speak up too much, not to color outside the lines. And there's these 5 stages of divine reinvention called the purpose map that I talk about in the book.
And you actually have
I did since your video.
Yeah, so show us the map. And you help women go through various steps in order to achieve kind of a bigger version of
Yeah.
themselves.
Well, when we look at our lives, we see a mess.
Right.
When God looks at our lives, I believe he sees a map, and in particular these 5 stages of divine reinvention. And so I'll just write it in here since we've got you guys online. But this is on page 60 of your book for those of you who are readers and investors in your own wellness. So stage 1 is called discovery. And this is in the first box. And discovery is all about the rules. This is where we learn the do's and don'ts of life. This is where we ask the question, who should I be? Who am I supposed to be? And whoever is in our life or what our influences are going to answer that question. Our moms are going to tell us who we should be.
Right.
Society is going to tell us who we should be.
Now, did you feel you should be a lawyer? Is that one of the reasons why you went into law?
Well, I felt as this young Black girl in a predominantly white school that I was a problem child. I was labeled as one.
See, that's why we're probably in sync, because I read that and I was a problem child as well.
And
I think that's good because it means that you're a rule breaker. And if you're a rule breaker with purpose, you're where you need to be.
Yes, and that's what it's all about. So we get these rules conditioned to us. Some of the rules tell us who we're not good enough to be. And so as a problem child, I hated feeling shame. And I talk about an experience in 3rd grade where I felt shame for the first time. And I didn't want to bring that onto my parents. So my rule that I replaced that was, well, I don't want that to happen. Let me figure out how to get approval. And so that's where I first got my drug of achievement. So then I became an overachiever. So the rules told me that my worth was validated by my work, impressing people. And then so that takes us, the rules that we have take us into stage 2, which is called talent. And talent is all about these 5 success mountains. So for some of us as women, and these become our labels, we ask the question, who am I going to decide to be? And is it motherhood? Is it marriage? Is it the mountain of money, mending, or making a difference? And these become our titles, but I believe titles can become idols and labels can become fables. A mom can think that's all she is because that's the story she's told herself. And so in stage 2, now these are this is a necessary stage to go up these mountains, but we're not supposed to climb mountains as women. We have superpowers. We're designed to move them at the end of the day. But here.
And what's our superpower? Is that our talent? Is that our story?
So close. So one of the reasons I believe disruption comes into your life, I believe that it came into my life, was to move us into this middle stage called the gap, and to break us up with our addiction to the identities that we've made for ourselves here in this comfort zone. And as we go through the gap, we enter into what I call our gift zone, our gift stage. This is stage 4. And we ask the question, how was I really designed? So the talent was all about, who did I decide to be? That's I was trained as a lawyer. I could climb that mountain. Well, I could be a partner at a big law firm right now if I wanted to be. But was that what I was destined to be? So our gifts are, how was I really designed? That's where you find your superpowers. And a lot of people will say, well, I want to know what it is. It's been with you all the time. So you don't actually find your purpose. You wake up to it. It's already been within you.
Or it calls you.
It calls you.
Yeah.
And when it's really tugging at you like it will in the gap, it's saying, look, you have gotten too big for the small place that you have me in. So it doesn't matter how much success, how much money you have, your destiny sometimes can't fit into the path that you've chosen for yourself. The box.
Yeah.
The box.
The box.
So we have our gifts. And then the last stage is called influence. And I believe this is what every woman is really made for. We sometimes think that some women are called to lead and some of us aren't. And I don't believe God's a respecter of persons. I think all of us have the ability and the DNA to influence and to have impact, because each of us has a story. So even though your unique gifts might be different than mine, one thing that we have in common as our ultimate superpower is our voice.
I love it.
That's why the Me Too movement is happening right now. It's because women are finally saying, you know what, we're not going to be confined to roles. We're going to break the rules. We're going to step into our ultimate superpower, which is our voice. And when we do that, we discover other things, abilities. Some people might be painters, artists, scientists.
And also collectively we're stronger.
Yes.
You know, collectively we're stronger. And also everybody might have an influence on a different stage.
Oh yeah. And it's not about fame.
And I really do think that if you get this book and you're struggling or you want to just improve already on believing bigger, this is definitely a great way to do it. And we have something called a quick 5. Before we end, we're also going to meet your new fabulous husband, who is a therapist, and also encourage you to write this book. We're going to do quick 5, then we're going to bring your handsome husband in,
chocolate cutie.
who was definitely worth waiting for and finding. Okay, so as our quick 5, what are you interested in that most people are not?
Popcorn and superheroes.
Okay.
I'm especially obsessed with all things organic popcorn, and I'm a tomboy at heart, so I love superheroes and wrestling. People would be surprised to know that.
When you were little, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a lawyer and a fighter pilot.
Oh, okay.
But I have problems with authority, and I'm legally blind in my left eye. So both of those things kind of disqualified me from that. And so I wanted to be a lawyer because I saw Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that
That's
fascinating?
why image
How
matters.
Good TV can influence people.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we need some of that back. Who are your top 3 lady heroes?
Number 1 is by far my mother.
Aww.
Strongest woman I know, my Mama Mary. I would say number 2, I'm going to say my great aunt Effie. I remember being at her bedside when she passed away, and she told me something that always stood out to me, is that she never had a headache. She never worried, and she didn't learn to read until she was in her 70s. And she cleaned houses for other people, and she didn't worry. Like, we have so much, I have so much, and don't worry. And then I have to say the other is my Grandma Pearl. I write about her as well. And she was about this tall. We call her a small piece of leather that was well put together, but she served. And the elder women in my family, because of the generation that they came from, they didn't have a chance to get lots of education. My mom was a first-generation college student and was going to go into therapy. She was a psychology major, and she put that on hold for her family. And so one of the things I write in the beginning is I say, I pray that I have the opportunity and that I use the opportunity to manifest the dreams that you all didn't know how. So those 3 women.
We certainly do stand on the shoulders of the generation before us. So who has influenced you most? Would that be your mother?
I think that, I think in this season, my biggest influence right now is probably my husband.
Oh, and we're going to get him in after the final question. If you could make a rule for a day and everyone had to follow it, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. A rule for a day. Well, for today, it would be you have to get a copy of Believe Bigger.
That's right. And we're going to have a link so everybody can buy the book. We're going to have a link. Let's get your handsome husband in.
Hey, JD. Come on in,
Jack Daniels, come on in.
I have no idea where I'm going to sit.
You're going to sit with your wife.
I'm just and
how cool is your name, Jack Daniels? So
he's a cool guy.
I know. And you're also a therapist.
I am.
And people may have seen you on The Housewives of Atlanta. Because you're also high profile.
Amongst a lot of other shows. So
You must be so proud of your wife.
I am.
You're on camera. You have to be.
Like, what she's been able to accomplish with this book, with the movement, with just being like a superhero for women. And I'll call her Super Shero. Because having the ability to be able to help people identify where they are, because most people don't know what their purpose is. And to be able to come up with a map and a blueprint to actually navigate and guide you through that, it's going to help so many people overcome the obstacle of just, why am I here?
And also, I think that's true joy. The one thing I feel every morning when I wake up is the purpose of who I want to be.
Isn't it amazing?
And it really, I think it keeps me going, because I feel like
vision.
It really is. It's just something that makes me feel good. It's like being in love almost.
Because you're in love with your life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you guys are a power couple.
No.
I'm so thrilled to meet
we're
you.
A purpose couple.
And power and purpose couple. And listen, this is an amazing book. Check it out. We're going to have a link. Thank you so much for joining us today for Empowerment Week on Talking Live. And we will see you again next week on Monday during our regular time.
Bye. Thank you so much.